What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Duel commentary. My opponent's rating is 1405. I get criticized a lot for playing like the scrubbiest players, and I always pick people who are in like 1300 plus, and it's always 2 out of 3, and I still get criticized a lot. Anyways, I'm playing a deck that I've talked about forever on this channel that I was going to build, and that is Skill Drain Plants. Lone Fire's at 2. I've been talking about it forever, so I figured, fuck it, might as well go ahead and do it. So let's see. I duality into 2 Lone Fires and a Torrential. I go ahead and take Lone Fire. I've got Titanial, Lone Fire, Magic Planner, Skill Drain, and Fairy Box, a card that you guys know that I love. So I'm going to set everything in my back row, and I'm just going to pass turn. Obviously, I can't use my Lone Fire because I dualitied. Otherwise, I would have. My opponent sets 1. He sets 2. He sets 3. And he sets 4, so I'm thinking maybe I'm playing Chain Burn. Now, he knows I have Lone Fire, and I'm not just going to summon it in the 4 back row, so I'm like, alright, well, either I'll take the +1 off card D, or you'll use some removal on it, and that'll make it easier for my Lone Fire to go off. He lets the card D go, so I'm just like, alright, well, I'll take the +1. Drawing the duality is a little counterproductive because it's another turn where I won't use my Lone Fire. So, I mean, I'm fine with that because I still want +1. My opponent activates Reckless Greed, and I'm thinking maybe it's Dark World, but I'm like, does Dark World really set 4 cards during their first turn? I was like, hopefully that's the only Reckless Greed that he activates. Now, you see, I have Mistake in my hand, which kind of sucks because he activates Hieratics Seal of Convocation, and obviously I know when I'm playing against, so I have some type of idea. He gets a set from the Convocation, and he's going to normal summon a set. And obviously now I'm thinking, okay, well, this guy is, he's probably going to try and go off against me. He gets Sue, and he's probably going to trigger, or he does trigger his Asset. He's going to get one of their normal dragons. And, you know, most versions have seemed to move to this Dark Dragon. And I'm thinking that they do this because, you know, it opens the options up for Chaos Monsters. He uses Sue's effect, tributing Tefnuit, and I hit him with Skill Drain. And I'm like, thank goodness he doesn't have an MST or something like that, because if he had MST, it'd probably be over. Well, no, I mean, I still had Fairy Box, so maybe I get lucky or something like that. Anyways, the Skill Drain doesn't stop Tefnuit from activating, so now he has 2 of his vanillas. He has 3 level 6s on field, but, you know, I do have the Skill Drain. I already ate 1,000 because I had to pay the cost of Skill Drain, so, I mean, he can do damage here, but he can't knock me out. You know what I mean? He can't just completely wipe me out. He can't OTK or anything like that. Not with the board that he has. He's looking in his extra deck. He makes Photon Strike Bouncer. I think he was just trying to go for the rank 6 that has the highest attack. Although doesn't Omega has 27 also, right? I guess maybe he thought if he drew like MST for the Skill Drain, he still wanted to be able to negate effects. So anyways, he attacks, and I activate Fairy Box, and he's like, oh my goodness, what? Now keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, I just made this deck yesterday. Like, literally, this is the 2nd time I've ever played this deck. So, obviously, there will be mistakes in this game. Just accept the fact that that is. So, I flip the coin. I call tails. I get it wrong. I end up eating 2,200. And this time, I call tails again. And it is tails. So, that 2,700, that Photon Strike Bouncer would have hit me for. I take 0. I love Fairy Box. It's such a good card. I swear I'm just going to start making decks, and I'm going to put Fairy Box in every deck. Alright, so I have to pay my 500 for Fairy Box because without that card, I am going to get blown out of the effing water. Now, here's the thing. I can't use card D because I need something on the field, otherwise I'll lose. I can go for Lone Fire, but he still has 4 cards in his back row. And if I go for Lone Fire Titanial, I can't use Pot of Duality. So I'm going to just play the luck game. And what I'm going to do is Duality. I was hoping for Mirror Force, but, you know, Call of the Haunted will just have to make do. The 2 Beast Kings are pointless. Like, I can already get to a beater. I could have used Lone Fire Titanial for a beater, but, you know, I'm scared of falling into a bottomless or something like that. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm just going to risk it. I'm going to set my Call of the Haunted, and I'm going to set Lone Fire Blossom, as crazy as that sounds. And at this point, I'm kind of relying on just flat-out luck. I'm relying on Fairy Box to just hopefully keep me in this game. He activates Reckless, which, you know, is good for him because the first Reckless that he activates, he's still on turn 1 now. And by the way, I wish I could put like a fairy box counter in this video, but we're currently up to 1. Let's see how many we can get up to in a 2 out of 3 games. Alright, so he summons Hanzo. Okay, so apparently it's Ninja Hieratics, which is a deck that I've seen a couple of times before. I'm not super familiar with it. I call Tails, again, for Fairy Box. This is why I love this card. It's so fucking annoying for your opponent. And it is Tails. So our Fairy Box counter is now at 2. And here's the great thing about Fairy Box. He actually takes damage from that. He actually takes 1400. He attacks with Sue. And I call heads. And it is heads. So now Fairy Box is up to 3, and he's eating yet another 1400. I'm actually doing damage on his battle phase. Like, this is crazy. I call heads once again, and let's see. It is heads, ladies and gentlemen. I just called it right 3 times. Our Fairy Box counter is now up to 4. And it's crazy because if I would have had Lone Fire in attack mode, he lost his entire field, right? Like, so basically, this is the best case scenario that could have possibly happened for me, because not only is my Lone Fire on the field, but I still have Call of the Haunted, and I don't have to waste my normal summon. You know what I mean? So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to go, first off, before I tribute Lone Fire, I've got to pay my 500, which, after what it did for me last turn, I am glad to pay. Activate Lone Fire's effect, and I actually think that I misplayed here. I went for Titanial. I think I go for Lone Fire and then Titanial. I should have just went straight for Titanial, then used Call of the Haunted for Lone Fire into the third Titanial in my deck. But you know, I guess it's all's well that ends well. It was a mistake though. Yeah, you see that I go Lone Fire for Lone Fire, trying to thin my deck, but that was a mistake. And then I go for Titanial. Now at this point, because I haven't committed my normal summon, I'm fine attacking into, you know, a Mirror Force or a Deep Prison. I'm going to try and get rid of the Photon Strike Bouncer, and he activates his Ninjutsu Super Transformation Arc Kage Benshino Jutsu Naruto Shippuden card. So it targets, and I'm kind of thinking, should I negate it? The problem is, if I just negate it, then he still, what's it called? He keeps his Hanzo, you know what I mean? So I'm just gonna not negate it. I'm just gonna let him get rid of his Hanzo. It was kind of like a bad position to be in either way, to be honest. And yeah, Hanzo goes to the graveyard. I didn't negate it. I really wanted to see what he was going to bring out. I was hoping he'd bring out like another weak Hieratic monster, but he brought out Red Eyes. So you can see I activate Call of the Haunted, and I'm going to go for Titanial again. And let's see if he has a response or something like that. He asked me for my target. I think I tell him that I'm looking for Titanial. I could have got Lone Fire or Titanial. It didn't really matter. But I'm pretty sure his response was going to be the same. You see he had the Solemn Warning for it, which, I mean, he had a way around my play. So, now, I think that I should have used Magic Planter on, what's it called? Oh, no, actually, yeah, I did. I used Magic Planter in main phase 2 on Skill Drain. And obviously I did that because not only do I have a second skill drain already set, but I've got another skill drain in my hand. So even if his last card in hand is an MST, I mean, it really doesn't matter because I've got 2 skill drains and I'm going to set them both. Once again, I'm really just looking for defense at this point, and I draw Call of the Haunted and Titanial. Call of the Haunted obviously being good because it gets me to another copy of, or it gets me to that Titanial that's in the graveyard. Now, here was one huge crucial mistake that changed the landscape of the game. I ended without setting mistake because I still have Magic Planter face up on the field. I looked at my back row and I thought that my back row was locked. You know what I mean? So obviously, with it not being locked, I would have set mistake and I would have activated it here. And that would have changed the duel because he would not have, or his Convocation would have just fizzled and he would have not been able to get anything from the Convocation, and it would have been a +1 for me. And my deck doesn't really add from the deck. It doesn't add with the deck from any effects outside of duality, so it really doesn't do anything. Anyways, and that's why I'm typing, hey, I made a huge misplay. He tries to activate Sue's effect, which I'm just going to hit him with Skill Drain. He's still going to be able to search one of his vanillas from Tefnuit. He's looking in his graveyard. He looks in his deck, And then he happens to realize that, guess what? Both of his vanillas are underneath Photon Strike Bouncer, so he can't activate the effect. So I guess all's well that ends well, you know what I mean? He ended up getting, well, pretty much a -1 there because he couldn't kill the skill drain. So I guess it was kind of like, it kind of evened out. So he really doesn't have any options here but to just try and attack. I activate Call of the Haunted, and I'm going to go for Titanial, of course. Lone Fire wouldn't really make sense. I leave myself open to a Bottomless, but at this point, he would have used Bottomless earlier in the game, the first time I summoned the Titanial, and he already burned Warning. Now, he does attack, and I'm telling him he's risking his game on it. And I'm like, okay, fine. I replay, and I activate my Fairy Box, and I call Tails. And now he eats 2,800, and that's game. So I believe our Fairy Box counter is at 5 correct cards. Now, I cut out the side decking just because this duel was very long. I'll show the deck if you guys want it. Obviously, I need to adjust my side deck and stuff like that. And I'm not going to lie, I sided in some very random stuff in this game, and some of you guys have already questioned some of my side decking choices to begin with in my other duels with Insectors, so maybe I didn't want to leave myself open to that. Anyways. Alright, so I'm setting Skill Drain, Call to the Haunted, D-Prison. I've got Beast King, Maxx, and Talea in my hand. I could really use a trade-in right about now. He summoned Fencing Fire Ferret, which is a very good card against this deck because it does trigger in the graveyard, if I'm not mistaken, so it does work under Skill Drain. So, you know, it can neutralize some of my big beaters and stuff like that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit him with a D-Prison. So, you know, I just want to get that off the field. And I think he's just going to set a card and pass. Now, I really couldn't imagine what he would be setting because in game 1 with the ninjas and stuff, I mean, there didn't look like there would be anything in his deck that he would set. Maybe he might have set like another copy of Fencing Ferret or something like that. Anyways, I rip a Lone Fire off the top of my deck. I'm going to summon it. I'm going to activate its effect. I think this time I'm just going to go straight for Titanial. Nope, my mistake. I went for Talea this time. And what I was trying to do was, I was trying to go Talea, activate Call of the Haunted, get Lone Fire back, and then get Titanial so I could defend against Bottomless or Mirror Force or Torrential Tribute or Dark Hole, you know, stuff like that. He ends up using Bottomless. He kind of used it late. I'm like, whatever. I activate Call of the Haunted. I get Titanial. Or excuse me, I'm trying to target Lone Fire so that I can get Titanial. He ends up having Twister, which, I mean, it's a good card to side against this deck because, let's see, how many continuous traps have I showed this guy already? I've showed him Fairy Box, Skill Drain, and Call of the Haunted, and in multiples. So he pretty much knows that Twister is pretty good. All he does is set a card in his back row and pass turn. I draw card D, which is pretty good for me. I'm just going to go ahead and try and take the +1. You could argue maybe I should have tried to go offensive with Skill Drain and Beast King, but I try to use Skill Drain more defensively in this deck. Like, I try not to activate it until I absolutely have to, you know what I mean? Because if he would have like MST'd it, my Beast King just would have been sitting out there against him having 4 cards in hand, and that wouldn't have been good. Now, me drawing double duality isn't the best thing since I top deck a Lone Fire, and it's like, what the fuck? Those two things don't work together. And I keep drawing these card Ds, and it's like, they're great because they give me +1, but they don't give me any field presence, which I desperately need. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duality for the Call of the Haunted. I run 3 in this deck, by the way. That's why you guys keep seeing them. And, you know, Call of the Haunted obviously gives me access to, you know, Lone Fire and Titanial and all of that great stuff. So, you know, he has what? 5 in hand, 2 on board. I've got 5 in hand, 2 on board. So just advantage wise, we're practically even. Now you can see he tributes what's that, Gold Upstart Ninja for the Vanilla Dart Dragon, and I'm kind of like, what's he doing here at this point? You know, why would he tribute for that guy? He has 0 attack, and I'm just kind of trying to figure out what the hell he was doing with that. He banishes it for Red Eyes, and I'm like, okay. I'm thinking he's going to try and use Red Eyes' effect to, you know, summon something from his hand, but he just attacks, and I'm like, okay. You know, he didn't have anything in his graveyard, you know what I mean? And I probably, no, wait, I don't have anything in the graveyard that I can actually search. I have just Lone Fire, so I couldn't go to Titanium and make them clash. Anyways, I drew trade in. I get rid of Talea. I draw 2. and I get Maxx and D, which are just they're two cards that don't give me any field presence, so that's definitely not something that I wanted to do. Let's see. I've got Lone Fire, Call of the Haunted, which is definitely good. I activate Call of the Haunted, not wanting to commit to my my what's it called, my my normal summon. And actually, you know what? I had Talea in there, so wow, that was a major misplay. I could have used Call of the Haunted for Talea when his Red Eyes attacked. Talea would have been 29, and he would have had to he would have had to what's it called? He would have had to do a replay or something. He could have used the Crow at that point, but it would have still left me my Call of the Haunted, or excuse me, it would have put me in a probably a little bit of a better position during my main phase. Now I don't clash with the Red Eyes because I don't know what his face down is, if it's like a Mirror Force or something like that. And plus, I've got 5,200 life points with double Maxx and skill drain set. So I'm like, how is he going to, how is he going to just completely blow me out of the water? You know what I mean? Like, Titanium is a hard-ass card to get around, and when he tries to go for his what's it called? When he tries to go for his erratic plays, obviously I'm going to hit him with skill drain. He'll have to do a bunch of summoning to get around my skill drain. Excuse me. So he tributes a set for Sue, and he's gonna obviously trigger his Asset, and obviously I'm gonna hit him with Maxx. He tries to activate the Asset, once again pulling out the Vanilla Dragon. He only has one in his deck because the other one is banished. And I draw one card. I draw Magic Planner, which is pretty good because if I don't need the skill drain later in the duel, I can just go ahead, or during my turn, I can just go ahead and use it for Magic Planner. He uses Red Eye's effect, trying to summon Tefnuit or Asset back to the field, and that's when I trigger Skill Drain. I have to pay 1,000 life points, putting me at 4,200. But again, I'm still in a really good position. If Red Eyes clashes with Titanial, then he'll hit me for what, 27 with Photon Strike Bouncer, or any other random rank 6. This time he happened to summon the Constello one, but then he summons BLS, and I'm like, well, fuck, that's pretty much not what I wanted. I mean, I can draw 2 more turns, I can draw 2 more cards, but unfortunately I don't play Battle Fader or anything like that, so I just have to scoop it up. And I kind of felt like maybe I could have played that game differently, and maybe the outcome would have been different. All right, so we're moving on to game 3. I have an absolutely awful hand. Game 3. I've got double Maxx, D-Prison, Talea, and Titanial. Obviously, you don't want to draw Talea and Titanial at the same time ever in this deck, because it's fucking like practically impossible to get them out of your hand except for trade-in. And that's the reason why I went Lone Fire, Titanial, is I'm trying to thin my deck right now. I'm really trying to hope that I can get to a trade-in, whether I just draw it outright, or whether I draw it off of Duality, you know what I mean? Because I need to get those cards out of my hand. Now, the fact that he opened with Hanzo was just, that was awful for me, because if I have Skill Drain, I'd probably just wreck his fucking face right now. But he was instantly able to get to Super Transformation, which sucks, because it's going to basically force me into using my Titanial turn 1. And I was hoping that the Titanial could sit on the field for at least a couple of turns. I drew D, and with me only having Maxx and a bunch of plant bitches in my hand, obviously my next move is to go ahead and summon D. I'm not even going to bother trying to use my battle phase, because he would just go into Super Transformation anyway, which I'm just going to have to negate with Titanial. So he says that the D is fine, and I draw 2 cards. I draw Magic Planter and Pot Duality. Definitely 2 cards that I want, because Pot Duality could put me 1 card closer to the trade-in that I need. He activates Super Transformation during the end phase, and I'm going to negate it with Titanial. I would say from an advantage standpoint, he has 3 in his hand, 3 in the back row, 1 card at 7 against my 6 in hand, and 1 on the field, so that's 7. So we're dead even, actually. He normal summons Fencing Ferret, and I'm going to go ahead and eat that 1,700 attack. But I'm going to get rid of the Hanzo with a D-Prison. Not just because it has 100 more attack, but I'm kind of fearing another transformation card. So, I don't really have that big of a fear if I have to just go ahead and attack in the Fencing Ferret and lose a monster. It's really not that big of a deal. I use, what's it called? I use Pop Duality, and I see 2 Beast Kings and a Magic Planner. Not only do I already have Magic Planner, but I don't have any continuous traps to use it with, so Magic Planner is useless. So I'm just going to take a Beast King, and I'm just going to try and run over this Fencing Ferret. Now, his back row is freaking loaded, and obviously he blasts me with Solemn Warning, but I'm actually okay with that. You know what I mean? If I can get rid of some of his back row, then when I drop a Titanial, I mean, he really shouldn't have any answers to it. I set Magic Planter as a bluff, and at this point, I'm just kind of hoping that some of those cards in his back rows aren't complications and that he can Hieratic me to death, which obviously they weren't. I eat another attack from Fencing Ferret. I draw Mare Force, and I said it. I'm not going to, use my second Beast King. I'm just going to try and use the Mare Force on the Fencing Ferret and hope that works, and it does. I drew a Mistake, which is good, because now if he has those complications, I can actually fight against those cards. But, Beast King wasn't doing anything in my hand. I figured I might as well go on the offensive because it doesn't look like he has any monsters that he can just outright summon and threaten me with. And what I'm hoping is, that my Mistake can live for a turn, then I can use Magic Planter on it. He activates Convocation, which is like perfect. It's like, that's exactly what I needed. I finally had the Mistake to counter it, and unfortunately, he has a counter for me. He's like, alright, I got the Twist, and I'm like, fuck, man. The one time that, it looked like Convocation was going to put in some work, it looks like Mistake was going to put in some work, he immediately has the answer. So now you can see he searched out Tefnuit. He has 4 cards in his hand. At least 2 of them have to be Hieratics. It's time definitely for Maxx to put in some work here. Like, that's the reason that I have those 2 Maxx. You can see that he tributed for the Vanilla Dragon, which means he's obviously looking to set up for one of his rank 6 plays. And that's exactly what he does. He activates Tefnuit's effect. And obviously I hit him with Maxx. So I drew Torrential Tribute, and I'm like, okay, finally I'm drawing some defense. I'll take that. And I draw another card when he summons M7. Now the thing, M7 is such a bitch of a card because if you already know that you can kill something in battle, M7 can get you so much advantage back, and then you just overlay into Gaia Dragon. Like M7, I mean, it's limited to 1, right? Like I now understand why the card is limited to 1. It does like a little too much. Now, if you notice this duel or this turn, he actually summoned twice. He normally summoned that dragon, and then he summoned Gold Ninja main phase 2, and somebody in the chat actually told me that he did that, and you're going to see Gold Ninja magically go back into his hand. Now, the fact that he normal summoned Gold Ninja in main phase 2 tells me that he probably has a Ninja transformation card, and that is exactly why I set UFO Turtle instead of summoning it. Now, the one thing that sucks is, since I already burned through both of my Lone Fires, if I'm not mistaken, I don't actually have any targets left in my deck. Now you can see that he activates M7's effect again, and he gets Tefnuit back from the graveyard, and I swear M7 is just too strong. And you see he goes into, what's it called? He goes into Gaia Charger because I set a monster, so he's like, alright, well, whatever. Even if you set a monster, I'm clearly trying to go in. He summons Fencing Ferret. I waited to use the Torrential because I figured I could at least I could take those 2 attacks without using Torrential, and maybe I could get him to use Torrential, or I could use Torrential during my next turn. It was definitely a risk and probably not the best calculated one. And you know what? Maybe I relied too much on Fairy Box. I call Fairy Box Tails, and it's Fairy Box Tails. So now he's going to eat 1200, and his Fencing Ferret is no longer a threat to me. I believe our Fairy Box counter is up to 6 now, if I'm not mistaken. He attacks with Gaia Dragon. And at this point, this is the thing about Fairy Box. It's like, do you stop attacking? He's looking at my graveyard. I think he's trying to understand. Maybe he attacked with, what's it called? He may have attacked with Gaia Dragon first. Yeah, he attacked with Gaia Dragon first. My mistake. Anyways, I call Fairy Box heads. It is Fairy Box heads. I believe that our Fairy Box counter is now up to 7. And this is incredible. It's like, I got 7 right calls. I mean, he's now at 1200. Like, he can't even attack again, and he can't even really attack again because if he misses, Fairy Box will kill him. And he's like, I just don't understand. So I'm like, fuck this. Let's get real. I put it in attack mode, which, to be honest, doesn't actually change anything. Well, you know what? I would take less damage from a Gaia attack if it's in attack mode. If he miscorrectly call, or if I call Fairy Box again correctly, it's gonna be game either way. So yeah, I guess having UFO Turtle in attack mode is definitely more beneficial. You can see that he summons Hanzo, and again, when he summoned, when he summoned Gold Ninja, when he illegally tried to double summon twice, that kind of tipped me off that he had one of the transformation cards. So the fact that he activates it is no surprise to me. So I'm going to activate Maxx. Now he doesn't have any more searches for, he doesn't have any more transformation cards because he already used one early in the game. That's why he doesn't search anything from Hanzo when he summons it. He's going to activate transformation, and he's going to pull out, he's going to pull out Sue. That's when I blast him with Torrential Tribute. I drew a skill drain off of my Maxx. I wish I could have drawn something. I wish I could have drawn something much better, but you know, it is what it is. The problem is I've still got these two plant bitches in my hand, and I can't get rid of them. They have been there since turn 1. Now, the one great thing is my field is fucking loaded. I've got Fairy Box. I've got a second Fairy Box. So, I mean, technically, if he attacked, I could activate the second Fairy Box, and I'd have 2 times to get it right. Not to mention, I still have Bottomless Trap Hole. I mean, I really don't see how he's going to be able to break through my defenses. Like, right now, they're just too strong. Now, with him summoning Golden Ninja, the 500 is not worth activating the second Fairy Box. So I'm just going to be content on calling Tails from my first Fairy Box, and it is, in fact, Tails. Our Fairy Box counter is now up to 8, ladies and gentlemen. I have called Fairy Box right 8 times, and he just says this has got to be a record. So now you can see I finally drew the trade-in that I need, and okay, now shit's about to get real. Like, my field is actually, or my deck is actually starting to work. I pay my 500. I'm going to activate Magic Planter. I'm going to get rid of my Fairy Box, which is going to net me 2 cards, and you can already see I have trade-in in my hand. So you see, get rid of Fairy Box, I draw 2 cards. I draw a double Call of the Haunted, which is great, because now, not only can I get rid of my plant bitches, I can summon them back. You see, I activate Trade-In, getting rid of Talea. I draw 2 cards. I draw Beast King, and Trade-In. And you can see, I'm immediately going to trade in my Titanium, and I'm going to draw 2 more cards. And it's like, wow, this is excellent. I got those plant bitches out of my hand. I got rid of my Fairy Box, which, you know, is fine because I already have another Fairy Box. I do double Call of the Haunted and Beast King. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better situation. I draw Mistake and Thunder King. Now, here's where things get a little trippy. He accuses me of drawing too many cards. Now, if you've been watching, you can clearly see I did not draw 3 cards. You see in the chat, you just drew 3. No, actually, I didn't. I have the correct cards. In fact, I counted, and I try to explain to him, and he says, first I had 4 cards in hand before I did trade-in, and this, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Now, here's the thing that you guys don't understand. This duel, we were already about 30 minutes into this duel with citing and, you know, stuff that I didn't edit, or, yeah, without me editing and stuff like that you can't see. So I'm just like, all right, you know, rather than trying to explain, I'll just go ahead and I'll trust him. You know, that's why I say never mind. And at first, I was going to go in to try and explain it, but I'm like, all right, you know what? I trust you. You see me pulling up the chat, trying to see if anybody's like, no, G, you actually had the right amount of cards. So I put Thunder King back on my deck, which I think that definitely would have changed the duel. You know, I want to say that I would have just probably won this turn, because what I would have done is I would have summoned Thunder King. I would have attacked Golden Ninja. He would have had to show me that he has a 3rd transformation card set, and I think that it probably would have been hard for him to come out of that alive. So yeah, okay, he does have the 3rd transformation, which means that my Thunder King and his Golden Ninja would have got transformized or transformed, whatever. I ended up bottomlessing the Red Eyes, but I still would have had the Beast King in my hand. So you see that I still would have been in a better position than him. I'm still in a pretty good position because if you look at my back row, it's fucking loaded. Fairy Box, Skill Drain. I've got, what's it called? I've got, what do you call that card? I've got Mistake down. You know, I've got 2 Call of the Haunted. Now you can see he activates Convocation, and once again, I try and hit him with Mistake. I'm like, okay, Mistake, this time you're actually going to work. I'm like, yes, I'm going to. No, I'm not. He MSTs it. So if I'm not mistaken, that was not a attempted pun there. But I've tried to use Mistake like, what, 4 times in this duel, and every single time it has fizzled. Now that is the card that absolutely scares me to death. A Wing Beat of Giant Dragon. and you can see he's going to try and threaten and blow up every spell on the field. Now here's something that took me about it took me about 2 minutes to try and figure out how I could not get butt raped and potentially still, you know, have a shot at winning this duel. You see that when he activates butt rapes. When he activates Wing Beat, I chain Call the Haunted. He has no response. I chain another Call of the Haunted, and my 2 targets are Taliyah and Titanial. Here's how this works, ladies and gentlemen. This is very similar to the Draco Sack plus tokens versus Dark Hole effect. When Taliyah and Titanial both hit the field, and when Wingbeat tries to resolve destroying the Call of the Haunted that is attached to Titanial, Taliyah is protecting Titanial the same way if you try and Dark Hole a Draco Sack with tokens. The tokens are on the field when Draco Sack would be destroyed, thus the tokens technically protect Draco Sack. It is the same exact ruling, and that is why Taliyah protected Titanial from being destroyed from Call of the Haunted. So to make a long story short, he puts Tefnuit in defense. I run Tefnuit's little ass over, and I am left with Titanial. Now that ruling took us about a half an hour to get because there were only 4 admins. Now you can see he tributes his asset for Sue, and I top that goes in match, which he's just like, oh my god, what the fuck? Why are you side decking goes in match? Which, to be honest, you can make a very good argument. Why was I doing that? Not to mention, I rip Magic Planter off the top of my deck, which gets rid of the dead goes in match because I don't need it anymore. So I get to draw 2 more cards, and I drew Mirror Force and Thunder King. Life, ladies and gentlemen, is sweet. That is game. Yes, I literally have no idea why I'm citing goes in match in this deck, considering, let's see, Lone Fire and UFO Turtle are both fire. Thunder King is light. Beast King is earth. Taliyah is what, like water, or something crazy like that. Titanial is wind. So I have no idea why I was citing goes in match, but you know what? All's well that ends well. It ended up working. This was one of those crazy duels with a deck that I had just built maybe 10 minutes ago. Tons of misplays were made during the duel, but I hope that it was entertaining for you guys. Thank you very much.